This is the bucket bag from the Denim Fabazine, and it's a really nice one to do. It's two large pieces of fabric, which if I just show you this one here, it's like a T-shaped piece. Unfortunately, I can't get the camera high enough to get the whole thing in because it is quite a large bag, this one. But I just wanted to show you a couple of the key steps to putting it together. So you get two large pieces like this, and first job is to add what are essentially large buttonholes into the piece, and this will help you put your strap through a little bit later on. Now, in the instructions, it tells you to put it, either just cut it because the denim is going to fray, but not so much that it would kind of create a feature rather than a problem. And the other thing it does tell you to do, if you want to, is just zigzag around it as if it was a buttonhole. So I've used a slightly different technique here, and I've actually used some of the wastage off the panels. So as you can see there, that piece you cut out, because when you come to construct it, you get a square bottom, and that means you have to cut this piece out. Now, the pieces that I've removed from there, let me just flop this over so you can see the other side of it. The pieces that I've removed from there, I've actually put onto the back of here, so I can create some buttonholes in almost like a letterbox style. So what I've done is pinned that onto the back of there. I've already marked out where my buttonhole needs to be, and then I've sewn around it. So I've got stitching all the way around to secure it. So now I'm going to take my scissors, and you need a good strong pair of scissors for this because you're trying to get through several layers. You can use a seam ripper if you want to as well, just to start that hole off. And then we're going to cut through both layers all the way up to the top, and then about half a centimetre from the top, and then, or quarter of an inch, and then diagonally into each side, and then the same for the bottom side. So let me just turn this around so I can get at it. So snip to there. These are good strong snip. You can hear the snip on them as I'm doing this, and you want to get all the way in to all of those corners. Okay, once that's done and that's in place, we're going to post it through. So post one through the other, so then that pulls through onto the back, and just flatten that out a bit, and then I'll take that to the ironing board and press it so it's nice and flat. As you can see on this one, then once it's pressed flat, I've just top stitched around the edge of it just to secure it, and then you can either trim away this piece on the back, or I've actually used a fusible webbing on the back of there just to secure those bits down. Now, if you are going to use fusible webbing on a denim, then I would recommend, if I just pull this up so you can see a little bit, can you see this one that I've got here, which is more like a grid than the normal kind of spider's web that you get? This is much stronger, and definitely would recommend this type of webbing for your denim. So I'll go ahead, I'll finish all of those buttonholes, and I'll also do the handle, and then I'll come back and we'll start to construct it. Okay, so my buttonholes are in on both sides now, and I've pressed all of those with some fusible webbing to hold everything in place. Next step is to just have a quick look at the handle for this. So the handle for the bag is just about twice the width of the front of the bag itself, and what you need to do is just stitch it in half, turn it right side out. Now I've pressed the seam to the center of the back because then you won't see it at all once the bag's together. And once it's constructed, it's designed to slot through these holes that we've made, these buttonholes, and that's going to create a handle that can kind of disappear once the bag is fully open, but then once we're ready to pick it up, you can pick it up and it will scrunch the bag in and close it. So I'll take that out of the way because the next step is to assemble a bag. So you're going to put that T-shaped piece face to face, obviously lining up your little buttonholes there as well. They should line up perfectly, and then we're going to stitch top to bottom on either side. And once I've stitched those in place, I'm going to stitch up the base. Now for the lining, you're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to stitch down either side, but on one of the sides you're going to leave a gap so you can turn it right side out. And then when you get to the base, you're actually going to pull that flat so that the seam that you've stitched lines up with the straight piece on the base, and you're going to stitch down those as well. So I'll go and stitch this together, do those base pieces as well, and then I'll come back to you when we're going to assemble the whole bag. Both the inside and the outside of the bag are done, and now it's just a case of putting them together. So I'm going to pop one inside the other and then line up the seams on either side and then stitch all the way around that top edge. Now this particular piece of fabric that I'm using here, obviously it's a striped one, so I've got a nice guide to follow all the way around. But that's kind of good and bad, because if I don't follow it exactly, then it's going to run out and it's going to look a little bit messy. So I'm going to take my time and go all the way around here. Now, this project I've done in a complete piece of fabric because I had some denim left over. But yours, you can use up all of those scraps and just create that piece of fabric from all of those scraps of denim, just sew in strips together to create the background in the first place. So I'm going to go ahead, stitch that together, and then we're going to do the final step, which is the top stitch and adding that handle in. The bag's all sewn together now, and I've turned it right side out. The next step is to do a couple of pieces of top stitching. So your first piece of top stitching is going to be just around that top edge, just to secure that in place. And your second bit of top stitching needs to be just below where that handle's going to lie. So the handle's going to go in between those buttonholes that we put in earlier. So I would probably say about a ½ inch below. So I would say on this bag, between these two stripes here is where I would stitch my line. And that's going to create a channel for that handle to sit in. Once you've done that, then your last step is to add the handle. And what you're going to do is thread it in and out of the slots and keep it at the front here and here. And once you've gone all the way around with it, you want to just simulate this by putting it underneath. You want to make sure your two ends come up between this slot. You're going to attach them together. So I'm just going to slot one inside the other, and I'll actually turn that edge first so it's nice and neat, and then stitch back and forth over here to make a really good solid joint. Once you've got them joined, then shuffle it around within there just to take that join to the side, so the two pieces that you've got showing are completely clear. So we're almost finished. The last step I need to do is just to join the handle that goes all the way through. I've threaded it right the way through the bag. You can see it coming out here and coming out here, and then I've just pressed over this edge and popped one inside the other. The last step is to just forward and reverse over that section a little bit to hold it in place, and then I will shuffle the handle round so that the join comes at one of these pieces here at the side seam. So if I wanted to, I could, once I've got it there, just stitch over the top to hold those two sides in place, but that's not essential. But your bag is complete.